Welcome, time travelers. SolaTales here, and tonight's adventure takes us straight into the marble halls of Byzantine Constantinople, where Imperial scribes carefully prepare 18 different colored inks for the emperor's correspondence. So dim the lights, sit back, and relax. The afternoon sun streams through the tall arched windows of the Imperial scriptorium, casting long rectangles of golden light across the polished marble floor. Dust motes dance lazily in the warm beams, spinning and turning like tiny dancers celebrating the quiet of the late day. The great hall stretches before us, its vaulted ceiling supported by columns of creamy white stone, each one carved with delicate acanthus leaves that seem to whisper of ancient Greek gardens. Master Scribe Theodoros enters through the heavy wooden doors, his soft leather sandals making barely a sound against the cool stone. He has served in this sacred place for 27 years, and his movements carry the unhurried grace of someone who knows his purpose completely. His dark robes, simple and unadorned, rustle gently as he walks between the long rows of writing desks toward his own workspace near the eastern windows. The scriptorium holds the peaceful quiet of late afternoon when the urgent business of morning has settled into the contemplative rhythm of completion. Other scribes work silently at their desks, quills scratching softly against parchment, creating the gentle symphony of scholarship that has echoed through these halls for generations. The air carries the familiar scents of parchment and ink, beeswax candles, and the faint trace of incense drifting from the palace chapel nearby. Theodoros reaches his desk, a masterpiece of craftsmanship carved from a single piece of dark walnut that has been polished smooth by decades of careful use. Upon its surface rest the tools of his ancient trade, marble mortars of various sizes, each one worn smooth by countless hours of grinding pigments, pestle handles of ivory and bronze, measuring spoons of silver, and an array of small ceramic pots, each waiting to hold its designated color. He begins, as he has begun every afternoon for more than 2 decades, by laying out his materials with the methodical care of a monk arranging altar vessels. Each movement is deliberate, purposeful, part of a ritual that connects him not only to his daily work, but to the unbroken chain of scribes who have served the empire since the days of Constantine himself. The first task, always, is the preparation of the imperial purple. This most precious of inks requires the greatest care, for it alone may touch the documents that bear the emperor's personal seal. Theodoros opens a small wooden box lined with silk, revealing tiny fragments of murex shells that have journeyed from the distant shores of Phoenicia. These shells, each no larger than a child's fingernail, once housed the sea creatures whose bodies produce the dye that has clothed emperors for 1,000 years. He selects the finest pieces with bronze tweezers, handling them as carefully as a jeweler handles precious stones. Into the smallest marble mortar they go, and he begins the patient work of grinding. The pestle moves in slow circular motions, crushing the shell fragments into powder finer than flour. The rhythm is meditative, steady, like the beating of a calm heart. As the shells become powder, Theodoros adds a few drops of the finest vinegar, imported from vineyards in distant Gaul. The mixture begins to release its color, a deep purple that seems to hold within itself the mystery of imperial authority. Grain by grain, drop by drop, the ink takes form under his patient ministrations. The golden afternoon light shifts slightly as the sun moves across the sky, and Theodoros pauses in his work to appreciate this daily transformation. Through the tall windows, he can see the gardens of the palace, where gardeners tend beds of roses and jasmine with the same careful attention he brings to his inks. Everything here moves according to ancient rhythms, in harmony with patterns established by wisdom and refined by time. Now comes the preparation of the golden yellow, the ink reserved for correspondence with fellow emperors and the highest nobles of allied kingdoms. For this precious color, Theodoros opens a small leather pouch containing threads of saffron, each one carefully dried and preserved. The saffron comes from the high plateaus of Asia Minor, where purple crocuses bloom for just a few precious weeks each autumn. He counts out exactly 43 threads, the precise number required for the proper shade and consistency. Each thread goes into a shallow bowl of warm water, where they begin to release their golden essence like tiny suns dissolving into liquid light. The fragrance that rises from the bowl is warm and earthy, carrying hints of the mountain meadows where the flowers grew. As the saffron steeps, Theodoros turns his attention to the crimson ink used for military dispatches and commands. This color comes from the bodies of tiny insects called cochineal, dried and ground to create a powder of such intense red it seems to pulse with life. He measures the powder carefully, adding it to a mortar along with a precise amount of iron filings to give the ink its permanence and authority. The grinding process for the crimson requires more vigor than the gentle circular motions used for the purple. The iron filings must be fully integrated with the cochineal, creating a mixture that will neither fade with time nor wash away in rain. As his pestle works, the color deepens and intensifies, becoming the rich red that will carry the emperor's military orders to the far reaches of the empire. The late afternoon air grows softer now, and a gentle breeze stirs the tapestries that hang between the windows. These magnificent works of art, woven with threads of gold and silk, depict scenes from the empire's glorious past. Victorious generals receiving laurel crowns, wise emperors dispensing justice, scholars preserving the knowledge of ages in libraries that stretch beyond the horizon of imagination. Theodoros moves next to the midnight blue, the color reserved for religious decrees and communications with the highest church officials. For this sacred shade, he opens a precious container holding powder of lapis lazuli, ground from stones that journeyed along the Silk Road from mines in the distant mountains of Afghanistan. Each grain of this blue powder costs more than a farmer's daily wage, and Theodoros treats it with the reverence due to something so rare and beautiful. The lapis lazuli powder has the deep, mysterious blue of night sky studded with stars. As Theodoros adds water and gum arabic, the mixture becomes liquid starlight, a color so pure and intense it seems to hold within itself the vast mystery of heaven. He stirs slowly, watching as the blue deepens and clarifies, becoming worthy to carry words about the divine mysteries of faith. Time moves gently in the scriptorium, marked not by the urgent tick of water clocks, but by the natural rhythm of careful work. The sun has moved lower now, and the golden light streaming through the windows has taken on the warmer, softer quality of approaching evening. Other scribes continue their quiet work, and the gentle scratching of quills creates a peaceful background chorus to Theodoros's methodical preparations. The forest green ink comes next, created from malachite powder that carries within itself the memory of copper veins deep in mountain stone. This color will carry correspondence about agricultural matters, trade agreements, and the 1,000 administrative details that keep the empire's vast territories functioning in harmony. As Theodoros grinds the green powder, he thinks of the olive groves and wheat fields that stretch across the empire's provinces, all contributing their abundance to the great work of civilization. The malachite releases its color slowly, reluctantly, requiring patient work to achieve the proper consistency. The resulting green has the deep richness of forest shadows, of leaves that have drunk deeply from spring rains. Mixed with the clearest water and the finest gum arabic, it becomes an ink worthy of documents that will guide the cultivation of fields and orchards for seasons to come. Silver gray follows, a subtle and sophisticated color created from powdered pearls and the finest silver filings. This ink serves for diplomatic correspondence, carrying messages that require the utmost delicacy and tact. The pearls come from the warm seas south of Alexandria, each one a perfect sphere created by oysters in the slow patience of underwater time. As Theodoros grinds the pearl powder, he marvels at how these gifts from the sea transform into something that will carry words of peace and alliance across the known world. The silver filings, added grain by grain, give the ink a subtle luminescence, so that documents written in this color seem to glow with their own inner light, befitting their role as bridges between nations. The warm brown ink requires oak gall and iron, materials that connect this imperial craft to the forests and mines of the earth itself. Oak galls are the strange round growths that appear on oak trees when certain wasps lay their eggs in the bark. Theodoros selects the finest galls, those with the darkest color and the most perfect shape, crushing them slowly to release their tannic essence. When mixed with iron, the tannins create a chemical reaction that produces not just color, but permanence. This brown ink will carry administrative orders that must endure for years, documents that will be consulted and referenced long after their authors have passed to their eternal rest. The mixture bubbles gently as the iron and tannins unite, creating an ink that partakes of both the living tree and the enduring metal. Now the light outside begins to take on the golden quality of evening, and the first evening stars appear in the deepening sky beyond the palace walls. Theodoros continues his work with the same patient care, for each color requires its full measure of attention regardless of the hour. The rose-pink ink awaits, created from the petals of Damascus roses that bloom in the palace gardens each spring. The rose petals have been carefully dried and stored in cedar boxes, preserving their delicate fragrance and subtle color. As Theodoros grinds them, their gentle perfume rises like a prayer of gratitude for the beauty that exists in the world. This pink will carry correspondence between members of the imperial family, intimate letters that speak of love and care within the sacred bonds of kinship. Each ink requires its own particular wisdom, its own understanding of how materials transform when brought together with patience and skill. The orange, created from crushed coral and amber, glows with the warmth of Mediterranean sunsets. The deep violet, born from a careful marriage of purple and blue, holds within itself the dignity of twilight. The bronze, mixed from powdered copper and gold leaf, carries the noble strength of ancient alloys. As evening settles more deeply over Constantinople, and the first lamps begin to appear in windows throughout the great city, Theodoros continues his meditative work. The white ink, used for corrections on darker parchments, comes from the purest chalk ground to powder fine as snow. The The black, darkest of all inks, emerges from charcoal, made from burned grapevines, mixed with iron to create a color as final and definitive as night itself. The pale yellow, delicate as spring butter, brightens from ground orpiment, while the soft gray finds life in a mixture of ash and silver. Each color tells its own story, carries its own purpose, serves its own role in the great symphony of imperial correspondence that flows out from this center to touch every corner of the known world. Now the scriptorium has grown quiet, as other scribes complete their day's work and depart for their evening meals and rest. Theodoros remains unhurried in his ancient ritual, for he knows that tomorrow's correspondence will require every one of these 18 colors, each one perfect in its own way, each one ready to serve the great work of empire. The sage green ink, final of the 18, comes from herbs grown in monastery gardens, where monks tend their plants with the same devotion they bring to their prayers. Ground and mixed with the purest water, this green will carry correspondence about matters of law and justice, documents that help maintain the peace and order that allow civilization to flourish. As he completes the preparation of the sage green, Theodoros surveys his work with quiet satisfaction. 18 small pots now stand in perfect rows upon his desk, each one filled with ink of such quality and purity that it seems to glow with its own inner light. The colors range from the deepest imperial purple to the palest morning yellow, each one ready to serve its designated purpose in the endless flow of imperial communication. The sun has set now behind the 7 hills of Constantinople, and the evening stars shine more brightly in the darkening sky. Through the scriptorium windows, Theodoros can see the gentle lights of the city beginning to twinkle like earthbound reflections of the celestial host above. The great dome of Hagia Sophia rises against the star-filled darkness, its massive silhouette a reminder of the eternal truths that guide and sustain the empire. He begins the ritual of cleaning his tools with the same careful attention he brought to their use. Each mortar is washed in clear water and dried with soft cloths until it gleams like new marble. The pestles are polished until their ivory and bronze surfaces reflect the flickering light of the oil lamps. The measuring spoons are arranged in perfect order, ready for tomorrow's service. The rhythm of cleaning is as meditative as the rhythm of preparation, each movement part of a dance passed down through generations of scribes. Theodoros's hands move with the sure knowledge of 27 years of practice, but also with the accumulated wisdom of all the master scribes who came before him, stretching back through the centuries to the very founding of the great city. As he works in the gentle lamplight, Theodoros reflects on the mystery of his calling. These inks, created from materials gathered from the far reaches of the earth, will tomorrow carry words that shape the destiny of nations. Messages of peace and war, of law and justice, of love and wisdom will flow across the world in these carefully prepared colors, each one bearing within itself not only its intended meaning, but also the devotion and skill of the craftsman who made it possible. The cleaning complete, Theodoros covers each pot of ink with a small circle of parchment held in place by a thin cord. This protects the inks from dust and evaporation, ensuring they will be perfect when needed. Each cover is labeled in his precise handwriting, identifying the color and the occasions for its proper use. For even in this most organized of empires, clarity and precision in all things remain essential. Now comes the final ritual of the day, the careful arrangement of tomorrow's materials. Fresh sheets of parchment are laid out in neat stacks, their creamy surfaces ready to receive whatever words the new day may require. Quill pens are checked and prepared, their tips sharpened to perfect points that will allow the inks to flow smoothly and create letters of elegant beauty. The Imperial sealing wax, deep red and fragrant with spices, sits ready in its small brazier. The various stamps and seals that will authenticate tomorrow's documents rest in their proper places, each one an artwork in itself, carved by master craftsmen to create impressions of perfect clarity and beauty. As Theodoros completes these preparations, he feels the deep satisfaction that comes from work well done, from duties fulfilled with care and devotion. The scriptorium around him holds the peaceful quiet of completion, the sense of readiness that allows for restful sleep and renewal. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new documents to create, new messages to send forth into the world. But tonight, there is only the gentle satisfaction of a day's work properly concluded. The oil lamps flicker gently in their bronze holders, casting dancing shadows on the walls where ancient texts rest in their carefully maintained libraries. These shadows seem to dance with the spirits of all the scribes who have worked in this sacred space, their dedication and skill living on in the traditions that continue unbroken to this day. Theodoros extinguishes all but one lamp, leaving just enough light to guide his footsteps to the door. As he walks between the empty desks where tomorrow his fellow scribes will resume their quiet work, he feels himself part of something larger and more enduring than any individual life. The empire itself seems to breathe around him, sustained by the accumulated efforts of countless servants who bring their best skills to its preservation and advancement. Outside, the night air carries the scents of jasmine from the palace gardens and incense from the churches, where evening prayers rise like gentle smoke toward the star-filled heavens. The great city of Constantinople settles into the peaceful rhythm of night, its people resting in the security that comes from knowing their civilization endures, protected and guided by traditions of wisdom and devotion that reach back through the centuries. And so, as Theodoros makes his way through the marble corridors toward his own humble chamber, and as the last light fades from the windows of the scriptorium, where 18 perfect inks await tomorrow's service, the eternal rhythm of the empire continues its gentle pulse, like the heartbeat of some great living thing that encompasses within itself all the hopes and dreams of humanity, sustained by the patient devotion of those who serve its noble purposes with skill and love, generation after generation, in an endless cycle of dedication that connects past and future in the eternal now of faithful service. The stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns, keeping watch over the sleeping city as they have since the world began, and will until the end of time. In the scriptorium, the 18 inks rest in their perfect stillness, ready to carry tomorrow's words across the world, each color a small miracle of human skill and devotion, waiting patiently for the dawn that will begin another day in the endless story of empire and the faithful scribes who serve its eternal purposes with quiet love and unshakable dedication. And all was peaceful in the gentle way of Byzantine tradition, as it had been for countless generations before, and as it would be for generations yet to come, under the watchful stars that guard the dreams of emperors and scribes alike, in the timeless rhythm of rest and renewal that blesses all who serve with pure hearts and willing hands. Sleep well, time travelers, and may your dreams carry you gently through the peaceful corridors of history, where dedicated craftsmen like Theodoros continue their quiet work in service of something greater than themselves, creating beauty and meaning, one careful, perfect stroke at a time.